Do you want that vision where your children can walk to school? Do you want that place where your parents can grow old and live in the same community and not necessarily have to have a car? And do you want that place where you can go out and walk? Most people want that shared vision.
So, hello there, and welcome back to Design to Connect. If you're new here, here we talk about and have conversations about cities, architecture, and design in general, how each of these points can shape our lives. And we also look at how, by making some changes in the way that we design, we build things, and we build our cities, we can actually create cities that are happier, more livable, and healthier for all of us to live in. So, in today's episode and the next couple of episodes to come, we are not anymore talking to a specific person about their specific journey and the projects that they work on, but we are talking to groups of people who are working on a certain project with a certain mission. And today's topic is one of those topics that I have experienced firsthand, how its existence and not existence in the cities can change the way that we live and we really feel in our cities. Today, we are going to talk about active mobility in cities, and in other words, how we can build cities or design cities in a way that we have the possibility to move in them easily and be kind of active and not so much to be reliant, particularly on our cars, especially when it comes to individual cars. So today's project is called Active Cities, which brings together 8 municipalities, 3 knowledge partners, and citizens together to really prioritize active modes of mobility like walking and cycling in the North Sea region cities. And this project is trying to do that through different approaches like tactical urbanism, multimodal mobility hubs, awareness campaigns, and co creation schemes with the real aim of redesigning cities that and policies that really encourage active mobility and reduce the negative impact of car centric urban environments that we also talked about a couple of episodes ago. So today I have with me Juliet, who is the project manager of Active Cities, and Jim, who is the founder of Walk 21 and is an international policy advisor. How are you both?
Yeah, doing good. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, very much so. Thanks very much for having us.
Yeah, really excited to have you both. So, since I talked the first couple of minutes, I would give the floor to you both to introduce yourself, the work that you're doing, both personally, but also with Active Cities.
Yeah, sure. I'll start. Yeah, so my name's Juliet, and I'm based right now in Barcelona, working for Bax and Company. We are a mission-driven agency that have been supporting this project called Active Cities since the very beginning, because that's what we do: try to bring people together and then make things happen, like collaboration, especially, and then like impact and pilots. So that's a bit of the background behind this project. It's a European project, and at the moment I'm the project manager of this. Yeah, I've been working on mobility in the past for the past years and other topics related to making cities more livable.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I guess I'm one of Juliet's friends. We're part of the consortium. We focus. I'm Jim Walker, and I work on walking issues with Walk 21. We're a foundation that's been going since the year 2000, supporting cities and national governments with policies and projects to improve walkability. And I think particularly since COVID, we've seen a real uplift in policies being developed. But not everyone can wait for a policy. People want to get on with things. And I'm really delighted that we're part of this project, the Active Cities project, to actually support the delivery of initiatives and see if there's a formula about that change to actually support more active cities. What is it you do? How do you evaluate it? These are the sorts of things we're looking at together.
Thank you. And I'm really excited to hear more about the project. But I kind of want to start with the why behind the active mobility and active city in general. So I'm just imagining, if I'm a person with a family, so, I have children and I'm comfortable enough in my car to navigate in my city with my car to go around. It's kind of easier. It comes easier to me. As a person who is in this situation, why should I care about my city, becoming more active? What are some negative impacts of somehow most of the cities that are not active, and what are some positive impacts of active modes of mobility? So somehow to sum up, what would be an added value for me as a person who is enjoying riding his car, her car, their car, in their city, and what would this really add to my everyday life?
You want to jump, Jim, or should I? No. Okay, yeah, I think I have a hard time imagining, at least for the European context, that you can enjoy like a car ride without also having the effect of like just being stuck in congestion, no? Because one of the big thing in urban mobility is that places is limited. So I guess with this comes often the thought that, okay, what are the alternatives, and what we're trying to show is that the alternatives have many benefits, like for you when it comes to, of course, health, physical health, mental health, social health as well, but then also for the city, for making it more livable. I think we mentioned already, like the post-COVID kind of like realization. Yeah, people were happy to be in their cities and to use the public space there. So to realize that, okay, yeah, I want green spaces. I want to my kids to play. I want the air to be breathable, like, and nice. I don't want to have this noise pollution, like all those things are things that hopefully we also trigger, I think in our project as like the main benefits for making cities more active.
Yeah, if I might add to that, it's easy to imagine that what we're trying to do is get everybody out their cars, but actually the streets are full of people, and we need to do this in order to keep people on their feet, to keep people on the saddle. There are temptations that if we don't make our cities more walkable and easier to cycle, then people do choose. They imagine that they need to get a car. Whereas all our European cities, almost all of them anyway, have been designed around the pedestrian. That's where they've got that fabric. And really what we're talking about in this project is making sure that we don't lose those elements that we've inherited, because we've been blindsided by the potential of all these other things. The time that we could save if only we sat in traffic a bit more in isolation in our own cars, instead of being sort of more social out on the streets. We're just trying to reframe things, really. And so it is getting people out of their cars, but not by beating them up. We're actually making it so nice, reminding people that our cities are walkable, can be cycled, and that this is an easier, nicer, more attractive way to actually enjoy the cities that we choose to live in. And that's also part of the project. So this isn't an anti-car project. This is a pro-people policy project where we're investing in cities and reminding people that, this is the bit that makes city life enjoyable.
That's so true. Thank you to you both. And I think a lot of times when we talk about walkability, there's this thought that comes to a lot of people that they might lose their freedom to move. But really making walkable cities is about creating more options and not taking options away. So it's really about having more choices instead of needing to only use our cars to move around, and like being kind of forced because there are not other options in a city.
Yeah, I think you got it there. What happened during COVID was we were suddenly told we can't walk, we can't go out and enjoy our cities. And you were telling me you're in Milan at the moment. That was a place that had real restrictions around movement, personal movement. And I think we really realized that actually, if we can't walk in our communities, we've really lost something very fundamental. And I think it's that realization, that reframing, that has meant that we don't have to wait for the next pandemic. We're in a pandemic. The pandemic we're living with now is climate change, and it's urgent. And actually, we need to think about the things that we learned during COVID and invest them back in, and make sure that the ability to walk to school, to healthcare, to work, to education, and certainly to public transport. This is at the heart of this project, the Active Cities project. We need to make sure that those fundamentals are right in our cities, wherever we are in Europe. And we're just exploring that in more detail to understand what are the elements we put in place in order to reserve those rights and make sure that the priorities are there.
Lovely. Thanks so much. And I wanted to take this time to also ask you about you're talking about active mobility and active modes of transportation. But I also wanted to ask you about sustainable mobility and what would be kind of the differences and similarities between these two, let's say, concepts. Because I think when right now we talk about sustainable mobility, most of the times we focus only on the environmental sustainability of different types of transportation and mobility in a city. And to most of the people, the mainstream idea or mainstream solution that comes to everybody's mind as a solution to traffic congestion or to the pollution that we see is electric cars. And I really want to take this time to ask you also about why, if yes, why would be the reason that electric cars won't be the only modes or ways of reaching sustainability or sustainable mobility in a city, and also for you to kind of explain to us what is sustainable mobility and what is active mobility and how these two concepts kind of come together.
Yeah, shall I start with that, Juliet? Please feel free to add. Look, many of our journeys are unpleasant, difficult, and at times dangerous. And these journeys, that we're talking about are all these burdens that we carry with us at a community level, at an individual level, are being wrapped up into these sustainable development goals, haven't they? We know that there are these 17 actions that are try to identify how we want better equity, better safety, make it easier, make it nicer for people. And I think governments for several years now have been trying to work out how to package that at a city level and deliver it in a way that that does improve life quality. And when we talk about electric vehicles, it's actually the wrong question or the wrong answer, I think, for actually packaging that up, because the average electric vehicle in Europe costs 56,000 euros. The average net income of a European is 26,000 euros. Now, if the average European is spending 13% of their income on transport, that's about 3,000 euros a year. Quite frankly, most people can't afford electric vehicles. And so it's not really a solution, even if we think it's a solution to the less greenhouse gas emissions, we've missed the societal package that is really framed up in those sustainable development goals that talks about equity and thinks about the community sustainability and our planet sustainability. Let's not forget that the vehicles that we're getting rid of in order to change them to electric, they're all going to other countries. I've just come back from Kigali in Rwanda, and most of the cars that they're importing in Africa have all come from Europe. They're all our unclean ones. We're one planet. And from us thinking that we just change our energy source and that it'll all be okay for us here in Europe, hasn't actually done anything except hide the problem by displacing it to another place. So look, I'm not against greening the fleet. I think it has a contribution to make, but these cars are 30% heavier. Talk about sustainability, they have a bigger impact on our infrastructure than our existing cars. And we still have to wrestle that issue about where is there any extra energy source coming from. We're having an energy crisis right now with the various conflicts going on around the world. It's become less and less secure. I don't think we really need to be looking for a solution for just changing energy sources and carrying on. Something much more fundamental than that. And I think that and what we've proved really, that if you can get our journeys to be safer, easier, nicer, more equitable, then I think that's a foundation for delivering many of the Sustainable Development Goals. And actually, if we can get that right with what people sometimes call this mobility pyramid, but where pedestrians are at the top, then cyclists, then public transport, rideshare, and then we have the private vehicles. If decisions are made like that at a city level, if investments are made like that at a city level, and if we as citizens in our communities make decisions like that, then I think we have happier, more successful places. The sort of places that I know you were describing at the beginning is actually the vision in Europe, and probably the vision in many of the places where we've chosen to live.
Thank you so much. Juliet, would you like to add?
Yeah, no, I think Jim made a great job there, and from giving maybe a bit of a perspective from our project in Active Cities, we've taken they might be more like when you look at mobility, like we look only at urban mobility, then of course there's rural mobility and all types of other mobility. So in urban mobility, we want to push for active mobility because we think this is doable. No people can walk, a cycle, and most people can do that, or get access to public transportation that can also give them further away. But then, yeah, for covering other beats and for overall entering to this mobility challenges, there might be electric mobility is an answer to some of them, not to all of them. And especially in this project, we've decided to focus on the people and on moving from A to B with your body strength only.
Thank you so much. So based on what you explained, can you tell us what would you define as an active city? What is the picture that you're painting?
Yeah, I think to take the words that we've been running this project now for a year, and everything gets a bit more defined, I think, every time we meet with the different partners. So there's very different ways of defining it, but also, although we're quite aligned. But I think really the vision that is there for active cities and for those 8 cities that work with us is that, active mobility would be an easy, attractive option, that is right at your door, and it's your go-to option, and that it's focused on people. We use a lot this word of human-centric mobility, human-centric planning, and that we bring people on board. So I would say that.
Thank you. And if just to get also a more detailed, let's say, vision of that for especially people who are listening to the podcast and maybe they're not living in Europe or a walkable city, how would my day look like? Let's say walking in my neighborhood or kind of existing in my neighborhood, going to work. How would that look like?
Well, I think it's a really good point. How do we know if we live in a walkable place? And we've been thinking about this. Not just it can't just be about people on the streets. It would be nice to imagine that you have these busy areas full of people, and it's somehow or other successful. We worked in Hong Kong a few years ago, where they have 97%, I think, sustainable modes. They're either people walking or using public transport. And as you say, in Europe, any city who had a mode share like that would sort of think, we've made it. We are the ultimate active city. But the reason why they got in contact with us is because they said it's actually the worst part of their day. They really don't enjoy it. because it's not a great experience. And so it's not just about counting the people out on the street. It can't just be about mode share. It has to be about satisfaction and enjoyment. And I think this is something we've been getting a grip on. So when we talk about walkability and bikeability, we actually have to understand the environment, and it's the relationship really between people and the environment, their behavior and their perceptions, I think, is what's so critical. So maybe when we first started this project, we thought we'll be measuring numbers of people, and this would all be about numbers of people who got out their cars, or more people cycling, more people walking. I think what we've matured into our thinking about is actually, about whether these people are enjoying their experience, whether that sort of sustainable behavior is likely most if they are enjoying it. And we need to be careful that we haven't left anyone behind. So, the most walkable places, I think, and the cyclable as well, will be where we've got infrastructure supporting people's needs, where people are maybe smiling on the streets, it's not just about the miles, it's the smiles. It's actually where people interact with each other. And we know a good place is where we've got a good balance between ages, abilities, genders, different income levels, all mixing. The street is where we're all equal, really, and we need to make sure we're providing for that. And you can see that quickly when we've been visiting these communities and cities, as we've been moving around the project partners. We get a quick insight as to whether these places are already successful, or maybe that there are things that could be invested in to make sure that people aren't left out, and they're making these choices because they can, and because they want to, and because they're enjoying it. And that's the maturity, I guess, of this project that we're moving into now in our second year.
And I think it's a lot also about, as you say, yeah, enjoying the mobility, but also not only to use the streets as a space, to pass by, but it's where there are opportunities to sometimes sit, talk to other people, kind of the whole placemaking concept of creating, different spaces and opportunities for people to gather, get to know each other, their neighbors, and the people who are living in their communities, and not just pass by, which a lot of times it happens when we are moving with cars, because the speed is so fast that you can't really get to know any other person, and the distance that you have also with other people that are in the street a lot of times make you not be able to communicate or have any meaningful, let's say, relationship.
Yeah, I think this is, we often talk about time savings, don't we, in transport decision making, and it's all about trying to get people to work faster so they can be productive and earn more money. This seems to have been a big drive for many decisions, transport decisions, over the last maybe 20-30 years. But actually, time quality, I think, is now being understood as being much more vital. And we know successful walking places, again, we would say 50% of your time is actually in a successful place is actually spent sitting and socializing, being able to pop into the shops, or smell the coffee literally as you walk down the street, and sort of be lured with this sort of sensual experience. I think it's so important. These are the successful places. And so if it takes you half an hour to walk to work in, which might only be 500 meters, then I would say that that's a successful place, because it's full of temptations. And these are the temptations that enrich our lives, aren't they? And I think what we've started to understand is you can evaluate time quality. And it's not just about trying to get there as fast as possible, but actually enjoy the journey.
It's very true. And to add on that, it actually went to my next question, because Jim, when you talk about walkability in cities, you use the three adjectives of safe, attractive, and accessible. I wanted to ask you, why did you choose exactly those adjectives, and why are these specifically important when we talk about walkability?
Yeah, I think they're concepts that everybody can relate to. We know you want to feel safe, number one. We know people don't go out at all. if they don't feel safe. We've seen that in lots of countries, particularly women. We know maybe don't even access certain bus routes because they don't feel safe accessing the bus. So safety is fundamental, I think, as a point of principle. But I think making sure that we have access to public transport, schools, our everyday destinations, our workplaces, our shops, I mean, is critical. And we've heard more recently about this 15-minute city concept, but it's just about proximity. It's about density. It's living within reach of the everyday places that we need. 15 minutes is actually the distance that most people will walk without even thinking about it. There's no conscious decision, because 14 to 15 minutes is something that you'll think, oh yeah, it's just over there. It won't take me long. I'll do that. You go beyond that time, and you might need to be persuaded. You might need to think it's worthwhile, or that I'm going to be able to stop for a coffee and meet someone on the way or something. There needs to be some sort of added attraction. But yes, safe, accessible. I think this is fundamental language. But I think what's more recent is this idea of attractiveness. We've assumed that as people walking and cycling, we shouldn't necessarily have to enjoy it. And why should it be nice? In times of austerity and people don't have a huge budget, why should we spend money on doing anything more than just providing the basic space? Why should you be enjoyable as well? Can we afford enjoyable? And I think what we've matured into thinking about is that unless it's attractive, unless we've really invested in that quality, people will switch. We know that. They've switched in lots of places where we haven't put value on it. And this is our chance to really think about dignity, investing in individual dignity for people, whatever their age, ability, gender, and income. And I think it's so fundamental to get right. And the cities that are doing this, where you see mixes of people of all those different ages and types, I think it's really rewarding. These are the places we want to move to. These are places we want to go on holiday to. And many of our partners, when you hear the sort of cities who are part of this, these are places that are enjoyable to go and visit and walk around, and have us bike around. This is a good project. But what's great is that there's still things to do, and they want to know that they're doing as much as they could. And I think we're coming up with a formula here, a formula that we hope we could apply to any city who wants to be as good as they can be for people who want to walk and cycle. And that formula, I think, shouldn't be in a black box. We need to come up with common language that describes it in a way that feels attainable and relatable. And if we want politicians to actually sign off budgets onto these things, we have to talk in concepts that make sense to us. And so safe, easy, nice, attractive, this language is something we all sort of think, yeah, that's what I want. I want that for me. I want it for my children, and I want it for my parents. And everyone can meet ourselves in that.
That's very true. And to your point, it's very easy to understand if a city is walkable or not by the variety of people, by the diversity of people that you see in the streets. You go to some cities and you can see people with disability in the street, and then you understand that that city is accessible. But a lot of cities, it's impossible really to find any person with wheelchair in the street. But that doesn't mean that that city doesn't have anyone with a wheelchair. It's just that people cannot come out because this city is not accessible. But the same goes for walkability of women. So if you don't see women in the street, there's a reason for that. The city is not made for them. So we can kind of by taking a closer look, really see how this city is being made and how welcoming it is for diverse groups of people. But I wanted to ask you, Juliet, also because you focus so much on innovation and collaboration when it comes to creating these changes in our cities, especially as it comes to transportation and more active modes of mobility. So I wanted to ask you, why do you think these 2 points are very important, and how are you using the two concepts of, let's say, collaboration and innovation in the project of active cities?
Yeah, so I think as Jim said, like, and I think a realization a little bit of bringing those people together is that, yeah, the cities that we have in this project, they're already doing quite well, you know. If you look at Europe, but also, of course, at the entire world. And so you could be thinking, like, why do we bring those people in the project? Does it make sense? Yes, no. But again, I think we just came back from a meeting. We were in Lund, Sweden, just some weeks ago, and something that was very strong there, I think, is this kind of responsibility again towards those climate goals that we have, and not just like, okay, our city is working very well and people use active modes for their health and for the climate, etc. But it's like, okay, the things we're doing well, we want others to know about them, and where we can still improve a little bit here, a little bit there, we want to know about it. We want to stay close to the innovation. We want to collaborate with European peers to do better. So I think this is the very nice part about this project. There is room for improvement, but already at a very good level. So then it's a bit of the responsibility of us to then document what we are doing in a way that is also, as those three words, that will reach like a certain number of people, that will reach the policymakers, the citizens sometimes. So in the end, the impact also doesn't stop after such a project has stopped, but can be transferred to others. So this is, for us a bit like the key of the collaboration and the innovation part, bringing them like together, creating some kind of more sustainable impact, and then making sure it goes on like this to others.
So true. And one kind of supports the other one. Like when there's collaboration, there's more innovation happening, and also vice versa. So I wanted to ask you both also about really the process that you're taking through active cities, because the approaches that you're using are tactical urbanism, multimodal mobility hubs, awareness raising campaigns, and co-creation schemes. I would really love to know what would each of these approach mean and how you're using them, and how is it really your process? How did you start the project? How did this past year look like? But what are you also planning to do in the next years to come?
Yeah, I can start with this of a little bit of the background is us as Baxen company. We have a big network of cities doing just that, innovation and European collaboration. So post-COVID, we started having conversation of what was needed to do when it comes to mobility. It is from the start a mobility project, even though, as we've discussed right now, it's not just about moving from A to B, but also what's happening in between. We were talking with cities like Hamburg, like Groningen, in Europe, and starting to shape a little bit the challenges that they were still facing. And I think the three challenges when it was coming to active mobility was the one that's still the fact that the streets, the cities were still planned for traffic and favoring traffic. When you think about, I don't know, how the streets are lit, they're usually done. This is usually done for the cars, not so much for the people walking or cycling, or at least not everywhere. The space also allocation. We've seen a lot of COVID pop-up lane, as in 2020, sometimes on the pavement, on the sidewalk. So looking a little bit about this and thinking, how can we actually focus on more human-centric planning that will do both walking and cycling and not those two against each other. So that was one part. And then the other part was around this multimodality. So again, we're well aware that not everyone can walk or cycle everywhere. And we have the chance to have rather good public transportation also in Europe that can then make you do longer journeys. and there, walking especially is crucial, and sometimes cycling is also possible. So we wanted to also make sure that when people have to make a choice, they have to go from one mode to another, that then the active modes are supported and are an option. They are obvious. Okay, I'm just out of the bus. It's very clear that there is a safe place for me to, get out of the bus and get to my destination. And it's not like I have to cross something that is like a big a road with a lot of traffic. And so this thing of like the multimodal experience, I think this was something that we also wanted to impact. And then finally, it's bringing people on board, really. So making sure that we change things in the streets. So the two first blocks are really about the human-centric streets, the multimodal experience. So potential like change of the built environment or in the infrastructure, but then also make sure that we tell people, hey, look, we're doing this. What do you think? Is that good enough for you? So that could be in the co-creation, or later about the communication. We have different ways, and also trying to understand behavior change when it comes to mobility. So this is a bit the last part that we have also in this project. And this first, we've been running for a year. This first year has been really about getting to know each other and trying to find ways to work together, because we're very different, of course, and we're going to be working together for the next 3 years. So that was an important point, understanding also the project. And again, one thing is writing a project and trying to receive the funding for it. So we're receiving funding from the European Commission for the Interreg North Sea program. But then when it's actually running, accepted and running, all of a sudden, well, as I said, it's a mobility project, but then you need to open a little bit the scope. There are other things, or also it was started in 2021, sent for review in 2022, and in 1 year, what's still valid for these cities? What it makes sense for them? Where are the priorities? So having a little bit this flexibility and understanding how we can transform an application form into something that is like a real project that matters and that creates impact for those cities. And then it's been about preparing the pilots, because what we want to do in this project is like the more concrete things, is trying things, and then again documenting, understanding what worked, what didn't work, so they don't stay as pilots from a European project, but they lead to long-term implementations. So this is mainly what we've been doing for the first year. Maybe Jim, I don't know if you have something to add from your point of view.
Yeah, I think we had, it sounded like a very neat structure that we had at the beginning, that we would change the streets, or you have a communications campaign, or we focus on hubs. In reality, cities want to do all of these things, and they need to, actually, because it's that package is where we're most effective. So I think, again, as we get to know the cities, we've heard in Lund, as we just mentioned, in Sweden, they don't have a walking policy. And so they want to invest in walkability, but they don't have a policy. They haven't started that yet. So they want to make sure that this pilot that we do together would actually give them the foundations and an evidence base for a new policy that could actually help the city quite quickly. In other places, like in Hamburg, they're particularly motivated by road safety. They want children to be able to walk to school, and there are streets there at the moment which, quite frankly, are not safe. And they need to sort of work out how to communicate that, as well as change the streets to make those school journeys more possible by young people. And in Leeuwarden, and in the Netherlands, just as a third example, we've got 200 Ukrainian refugees moving into that town, and they want to make sure that these people feel welcome, and that they adopt sustainable behaviors, and that they're integrated into their society in their town, and there's an urgency with that, because literally they're coming this year. And so the design, the layout, the information, the campaign, as it were, the change in streets has to happen really quickly to support those people who are coming, immediately. So, as Juliet says, things change quite rapidly actually at the moment. And you frame that up in the Sustainable Development Goals. We've only got 7 years till 2030 to get a lot of these things right. But these cities in the next 3 or 4 years, I think, are going to be, really pioneering pilots to demonstrate to cities all over Europe, and I think probably the rest of the world, that actually when you package these things together, you can achieve a lot and quite quickly. And I think that that's our core message, is that this investment in active cities, it's quick, it's affordable, and it's a reliable solution. And I think that is the message that I think a lot of people are looking for. It's a solution that a lot of people want. And so I think if we can keep not just supporting the cities with the changes that they're asking for, but actually disseminating that and letting people know how it's going and the mistakes that we make along the way, I'm sure there will be. I think the realism of it will be hopefully quite inspirational for other people.
And I'm just curious to know, how does that look, like the approach that you're taking, how does it look in the bottom up or top down? Do you also, in your, let's say, designing of the pilots, do you also talk to citizens, or does that happen at the later stages of the project, as Juliet was mentioning? If you could also take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely key for us. And I think probably the most fundamental thing that we agreed on day one, that actually we have to engage with people, and we have to involve them. And all of our ideas about what we might want to change in our cities, won't work if we don't. Or it won't work very well anyway. And so, the thing that we are now implementing across the project, and we're already thinking about evaluation and how we can evaluate outcomes from the project. This has to be all about citizen science. We have to actually ask people, how do they feel now? And we have to think about those in terms of people out on the street, and the choices that they're making and the enjoyment they have of those experiences, as we've been talking about. But also, I think, in our processes, in the way that we have our governance frameworks, inside our authorities. Our decision makers more persuaded now, because we've proven through these initiatives that these things do have an impact and that they're popular. Where are the blockages in the processes? And we have to sort of make sure that we can evaluate that we are improving processes, streamlining them, making them more efficient and effective, as well as the ultimate outcomes to benefit our citizens, at street level. And that sort of framework is what we're just grappling a bit with now, but I think we're very nearly there. We've got 3 good knowledge partners here from Aarburg University, as well as KU Leuven and ourselves, and we're in full agreement that these are citizen-led outputs, are what matter most. And so we're working on that now so that we've got systems that are affordable, that can be used, across all our partners.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to ask you, if there are, citizens of other cities, or maybe designers, urban planners in other cities listening to the podcast. You're 1 year in now into the project, but also you have a lot of experience, let's say, in creating active mobility and more sustainable mobility. What would be your advice on how to start all this? What would be the first couple of steps to take?
We were seeing who was going to go first here, but I'll have a jump at this. Look, as I said, we're trying to unpack the fact that there is a formula that you can use as a systematic approach, and I think we're very close now to sort of template policy, a package of actions, some core indicators that can be used, that cities could be adopting, anywhere in the world, quite frankly, and know that they are either using it as a checklist to sort of check what they're doing at the moment is enough, or it's something that they can use as a framework to develop policies, that are going to be more effective later. That's encouraging, and I think we're seeing cities develop policies really fast now. But we have to get these things funded and impactful on the ground. So getting started, what everyone is saying to us, it's about commitment. Do you want that vision where your children can walk to school, without being in a car? Do you want that place where your parents can grow old, and live in the same community and not necessarily have to have a car in order to, live a good life? And do you want that place where you can go out and walk to all the things that you need to? Do you have to rely on a car? Most people want that shared vision, but we haven't necessarily asked it. So if we can get that commitment first, then what we're finding is that we can develop the policy around that vision. We can enable that vision to be delivered. And I think, look, we're here with pilots. We'll have lots of test cases and evidence of, like I say, failures and positives. We're happy to celebrate failures. You can learn from those things too. But in sharing that, I think hopefully we can give confidence that commitment is possible. And it has to be possible. It has to be possible quickly. And so, I know we've got 4 years for this project, but actually they're already active. All of these places are busy doing things now, and we'll be able to tell you whether or not they've already achieved something really quite quickly in the next few months. And if it hasn't had the full impact that we think it could, we'll be adjusting and refining things over the next couple of years. But any city could get on with sorting out their school run, could get on with sorting out shortcuts through the city. It can think about the welcome package as people move into a place, and just how they can be supported to adopt, active cities, an active city lifestyle. And these things, they sound like they're, where would you start? But, we will have very practical solutions for people within the next few weeks, if not certainly few months.
Great. So everybody should be checking the Active Cities website for the updates that will come definitely soon.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to stress, everyone is so nice in this project. Everyone really wants to do the right thing. So look, you can look at a website, absolutely, but probably the website, it just feels so impersonal. This is all about people. This is people, place, policies. And so if any city is out there listening to this, wants to get in touch, then by all means, get in touch with any of us in the project, but certainly with BACS or and partners, and certainly us at Walk 21, we'd be delighted to talk to you about not just sort of cut and paste, but the how to adopt and adapt the things that we're learning to help you quickly. We'd be very happy to do that.
That's amazing. Thank you, Jim. So Juliet, do you want to add anything?
I think most have been said. We're trying to not reinvent the wheel here, also bringing, building on things that have been already done by others, and we hope that we also contribute to this of not reinventing the wheel constantly. So yeah, we'll try to keep talking to people and sharing our learnings.
That's really amazing. Thank you. So I want to kind of wrap up with the last question that is a little bit more personal and philosophical, but yes, so I wanted to ask you both, if you could dream big, what would you wish to have achieved, either by the end of your career or also at the end of this project that you're doing together? Yeah, what would you really wish to see, kind of the footprint of your career would be on this world? What would you wish to have given to your, let's say, community?
Maybe I could start taking a bit more, not so long-term perspective, but at least like in a couple of years after the project has ended. For me personally, I would love to see that things that we've started as part of this project, that allowed some of the people working in these cities to take time to focus on the specific challenge they had identified and try to find solutions that, years after, it's still there and is led to much more as inspiration, but also leading to real change for the people living in the street and for the way things are being done. So in Lille, in France, I'm French, so I relate a lot to this. They've opened like a house for raising awareness on sustainable mobility. One of the big challenges of this project is, okay, now they have the time and the money to dedicate to this mobility house. what's going to happen after the project has ended. So I hope that in 10 years I go to Lille and this mobility house is there and is still like promoting sustainable mobility, or maybe doing other things, because maybe by then everyone is walking and cycling in Lille, and then we need to do other things. But at least this is an example in France, and that in Hamburg, they're looking at school mobility, that the work that they're doing within this one school, can be extended to many more schools in Hamburg, in Germany. But that really we serve like, this purpose, and that we can do more in the future, thanks to a little bit of time and money and a lot of energy that we put into this project at the very beginning.
Thank you, Juliet.
Yeah, look, there's no wrong answer here, is there? But I think, look, people have always walked in the past. They're walking now, and they'll walk in the future. Whatever vision we think, that walking will still be part of it. And I hope that we can increase the value of that. Remember just how valuable that is to our lives, by encouraging people to provide for it better. And I think probably the best long-term goal we can have is for us to stop measuring things like mode share, the numbers of people walking, stop measuring the kilometers of bike lanes or footpaths and thinking that is our success as a place. It's about the interrelationship between these. It has to be about satisfaction. We have to embed this by communicating with people. You can't just do it on a GIS. By all means, geocode where people are happy and where they're not, but ask people, and I hope that our legacy more than anything will be engaging people as the way to actually encompass the vision, the future that we want for our cities, because I honestly think the more people you ask, the more you'll realize that there isn't us and them. There isn't a motorists and pedestrians and cyclists. We're all the same people. We all want the same things from life, and we want those experiences, our mobility choices and our daily lives to be as efficient, as effective as possible. And basically, we want to be happy, don't we? And I think we can do that. So I hope in some small way this project and our work will help remember that, and give a system for being able to put that as more of a priority in the way that people plan and provide for in the future.
Thank you. These are really both very amazing goals, and I really wish that you both see, let's say, the fruits of your work and see what you wish to see coming out of your career. Thank you so much. It has been really a great talk. I feel I learned really a lot. Is there anything else that you would like to share about the project, about anything? Is there anything that you would like to add?
I think we've said most of it, but yeah, we will share a lot in the coming month and years. So make sure to talk to you and to visit us.
Yeah, look, thank you so much for giving us a voice to be able to amplify the things that we're doing here. It's very important. We can't just exist as a small collection of cities. It's all about being able to disseminate this knowledge. And I just wanted to remember that, the climate talks go on every year. This same conversation is happening at a national level and through the regions. And so sometimes it's countries leading this conversation, but very often it's cities who are just getting on with it. And we need to find that common ground and appreciate that if we do want a solution to our sustainable plans, if we really want a sustainable future, then we're going to have to work with each other, and we're going to have to do that quickly. But yeah, thank you for the opportunity to talk about this, and I hope we can spread the word and keep in touch with as many people as possible.
True. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and insights and your experiences with everyone. It was really great to have you both, and thanks to our listeners that also stayed till this moment. If you enjoyed what you heard, please feel free, as Jim and Juliet mentioned, to get in touch with them and learn more about their project and check their websites. And if you enjoyed this talk, you can also share the talk with others and follow Design to Connect on many different channels with the name Design to Connect. Thanks to you all, and we would love to hear about your experiences. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Juliet.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.